And we finally reached the best part, transforming our beautifully pieced quilt top into a finished quilt. This part lets you add definition, texture, and that satisfying sense of completion. As you can see, mine is almost done. I just need to add binding and it's going to be completed. It's cuddly, it's very puffy, but I just love it. It's great for winter. Finishing a quilt top is an exciting step in the quilting process, and for some quilters, it's the moment of true artistry when selecting and making the quilting style and design. It is where the quilt truly becomes a work of art. It is a testament to the quilter's creativity, skill, and passion, and it is a stage where the quilt's narrative takes central stage, ready to captivate and comfort for generations to come. And even though I inspected my quilt blocks and rows and everything, now that I laid it down on my floor, I can see that there are two blocks with the same centers, so I kind of prefer not to have this one just following the other, so I'm just going to switch this row, and probably it's going to be the first one of this quilt top. And I know that this probably isn't your first quilt top, but it won't be harmful to repeat these following steps. 1. Inspect your quilt top. Before proceeding, carefully inspect your quilt top. Check for any loose threads, stray pins, or uneven seams. Make any necessary corrections or repairs to ensure a polished look. 2. Prepare the binding. Preparing the binding is an important step in the quilting process, as it not only adds a decorative edge, but also secures the quilt's layers together. Properly preparing and attaching the binding will give your quilt a professional finish and make it ready for use or display. Working with a striped print for your binding is always fun, especially when it's multicolored. But if you want the colors to flow in a continuous order all around the quilt, you'll need to pay special attention when joining your bias strips. Here's how to keep those stripes beautifully aligned. Look at the stripe sequence on each strip. Identify the repeating pattern. To maintain the stripe flow, you'll join the strips on the bias. Place the end of strip A right side up. Overlap strip B perpendicular to strip A, forming an L shape. Position the next in order color stripe on strip B directly over the previous color stripe on strip A so that the stripped pattern will be continuous. Think of it as matching the next color line on B to the last color stitched on A to keep the flow perfectly continuous. In my case, it's the lighter and darker blue, so I'm positioning the light blue of strip B on the darker blue of strip A. Draw a diagonal stitching line from the top left corner to the bottom right corner on the white space between the stripes so the sewing line will become invisible once sewn. Pin carefully, checking alignment one more time. Sew on the draw line. Before trimming the seam allowance, open the seam to check whether the stripes transition smoothly from strip A to strip B. Adjust if needed. Three. Prepare the quilt backing. Cut a backing fabric to the size of your quilt top, leaving a few extra inches on each side for maneuvering during the quilting process. I like to sandwich my quilts on the floor, so I clear and clean the floor area and lay my backing fabric wrong side up on the floor. I smooth it out and iron it to remove wrinkles or folds. I use painter's tape to secure the edges of the backing fabric to the floor, making sure it's taut but not overly stretched. 4. Prepare the quilt sandwich. I place the batting on top of the backing fabric and I spray a bit of the basting spray, which is basically a glue in a can, between these two layers only. Then I carefully position my quilt top right side up on the top of the batting, starting from the center and working my way out toward the edges. I press it with iron to eliminate any wrinkles. Five, basting. So beside using basting spray, I like to use safety pins to secure the layers. 6. Quilt. With your quilt sandwich prepared, you can proceed to quilt it using your preferred quilting technique. If you're not quilting it immediately, you can roll up the sandwich for storage until you're ready to quilt. No matter your quilting style, the cabin spark blocks are ready for it. Straight line quilting reinforces the clean graphic structure of the logs, while all over free motion quilting brings extra texture and depth, making scrappy or vibrant prints come alive. 7. Trim the quilt edges. Trim the excess fabric from the edges of your quilt sandwich using a roller and rotary cutter to achieve clean, straight edges. Ensure that all sides are even and that the corners are squared. 8. Prepare and attach the binding to the quilt's raw edges. Double fold binding is a common choice and my favorite one. Machine sew the binding to the front of the quilt and hand or machine stitch it at the back for a neat finish. I chose the Jolly Ribbons passive print, which adds a lovely bias stripe frame to the quilt. 9. Final press. After the binding is attached and stitched, give the entire quilt a final press to set the binding and ensure a polished appearance. Completing a quilt is such a rewarding and significant part in quilting, so admire your work and the progress you made throughout the Cabin Spark quilt sew along. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for participating and for sewing along, and I hope to see your finished quilt. Bye till next time.